Hey lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amity Gilmour and this is my life. It is May. May is EDS Awareness Month. EDS stands for Ehlers Danlos syndrome. Ehlers Danlos syndrome is a connective tissue disorder. There are actually multiple different types of Ehlers Danlos syndrome. There are, I think, 13 or 12 known types. I think it's 13. Let me just look this up. There are 13 known types of Ehlers Danlos syndrome, and there are also many unknown types that haven't been discovered yet. I have the hypermobile type of Ehlers Danlos syndrome, which is the most common type. And today for EDS Awareness Month, I'm going to be sharing with you my EDS story. Before we get into it, let's do what I used to always love doing before I sat down and talked, and it's make a coffee with you guys, so let's go. That's good. So I was 21 when I got diagnosed with Ehlers Danlos syndrome. Some people get diagnosed a lot later in life, some people a lot earlier in life. I'm going to tell you the story from birth up until now, basically. When I was born, I was a very very unsettled baby. I cried a lot more than usual babies. Let's just say I screamed at the top of my lungs all the time. Mum was quite worried. Why is she screaming all the time? Is there something wrong with her medically? So Mum took me to a doctor. I think I was 11 months and the doctor had examined me. It turns out I had hyperstretched ligaments and low muscle tone. So this diagnosis is probably the reason I'd say I didn't look into Ehlers Danlos syndrome, because I kind of thought, oh, well, that's why that explains everything that I was going through. Fast forward a couple of years and I had my first dislocation, which is not a happy thing. I don't know why I sounded like that was like a thing to celebrate. It was definitely not. When I was 10 years old, I was actually at an audition for a cabaret, and I was auditioning and they had to teach us the Charleston. I was doing the Charleston. I dislocated my knee, not when I was in the middle of a very difficult dance move, but in between. So explain that to me, I don't know. My knee kind of popped out of place. I didn't know it was a dislocation at that point. I just thought, oh my goodness, what just happened? I was in a lot of pain. I was crying. Mum took me home and we didn't know what to do, so we put ice on it, and then we kind of were just like, oh, because it was late at night, the audition, so we thought we'll put you to bed and the next morning, if it's still an issue, we'll go to the doctors. So next morning I woke up and yes, it was still an issue and I couldn't bend my knee, and it was just like, what is going on? Like, this is so weird. We went to the doctors and the doctor basically examined me the next day and was like, oh, you've dislocated your knee. So the doctor basically said, just go down to the chemist and buy a knee brace and just wear a knee brace for a while. And that was the beginning of me wearing a knee brace pretty much my entire childhood and teenagehood. Fast forward only about 3 weeks, I think, later, and I dislocated my knee again. And this time it was also dancing, but it was also when I was like not dancing. Obviously, again, put ice on it, put a knee brace on, and went to bed, because obviously I did dance late at night. So the next day it was still an issue, but we didn't see a doctor because we're like, okay, you know, it's just dislocation, whatever. This is when dislocations started to become a big part of my life. So the next time I dislocated my knee, I was at a school information night, and I basically was just running, like very slowly running. It was like a jog, like away, because me and my friend were in the school library and we accidentally broke one of the, I think it was like a geisha doll thing that was like on display in the library, and we accidentally broke it. So I like ran away like from the teacher because I was like, oh, I don't want anyone to say that I broke it, and I dislocated my knee. However, this time I dislocated the other knee, not the knee I dislocated the last 2 times, but my other knee, which was so confusing. We're like, what? So that's when we were figuring out, okay, this isn't a dance injury because it's the other knee. Like, both knees are a problem. It was just confusing, really confusing, and we didn't look into it because we just didn't. My mum did talk to my psychologist about it at the time because I also have autism and I was seeing a psychologist for autism. My psychologist basically was like, oh, well, it could be due to, you know, low muscle tone and that, which I'd been diagnosed with before, because apparently there's a link between that and autism, and said, I don't know, I haven't heard of like this happening that much, but it could be that, like, I don't know. So we're like, okay, it could be that. That is the information we got from a psychologist, mind you, so someone who isn't really qualified in that field. We kind of went about life and I started to dislocate my fingers, or rather sublux my fingers while in bed. Like, I'd wake up and my fingers were subluxed. I dislocated my shoulder once while surfing. I just kept dislocating things. I dislocated my toe once while surfing as well. And so it was just a continuous thing that was going on, and we just put it down to, oh, low muscle tone, hyperstretched ligaments, like all that stuff. That's the problem. In high school and also when I was younger, I loved dancing. I was quite flexible, so I could do a lot of things that a lot of the other girls in dance group couldn't do. I didn't, however, do the splits because I was so scared that I would actually dislocate my knee, because I had done other tricks before and dislocated my knee while doing those tricks, so I wouldn't do those tricks. So I didn't actually do the splits. I never tried. I never wanted to try to do the splits because I was just very scared. I did avoid certain things because I was scared I was going to dislocate my knee. In PE class, we did a test, and it's like the bench reach, sit and reach test. I don't quite know what it's actually called. I think it's sit and reach. But basically you sit at a bench, and let me just put my coffee down here. If this is like your legs and this is like your finger, like here's a bench at the end of your legs, and you gotta like reach all the way over. I can't reach my thumb all the way over, but like reach with your legs, you gotta reach like all the way and see how far you reach, and there's like a measuring thing. And I remember I was way ahead. I came first. I was about 10 centimeters in front of second place, who was about 10 centimeters in front of third place, who was about 5 centimeters in front of everyone else. So everyone was really shocked. They're like, oh my goodness, how did you get that? Like, whoa, you're so flexible. And basically that's what it is. It tests how flexible you are. So everyone was just shocked at how flexible I was and all the things I could do. In dance class, I would be assigned to do a lot of the more complicated, flexible stuff because I could do that. It was just something that everyone thought was cool about me. I was really flexible, but I also had to be careful what I did because I would injure myself a lot. Fast forward right through high school, I was getting dislocations on and on, non-stop. That's just what happened. Never looked into it, except I did end up in hospital a few times, in emergency, not hospital. I don't like saying hospital because hospital is like when you stay in hospital, to me that's what I feel like, but when you're like in emergency, it's like different. It's like a different part of the hospital. But I ended up in emergency multiple times during high school because I dislocated it so bad that it just wouldn't go back in, and so they would give me a boot and I'd find that the boot actually was worse. Like, not a boot, but like a thing that made your legs straight, and the fact that it was straight was just a lot more painful, so I actually turned it down. I finished high school in 2019. I was 19 and I had my first year out of school, and I was doing a whole bunch of different stuff and I was enjoying myself and I was very busy. But I did start to get a little sick. This was more to do with my gut, so my gastroparesis, which was diagnosed like a year later. I did start to get a lot of pain and a lot of nausea and a loss of appetite. They did a lot of investigating. I was in and out of hospital trying to figure out what was going on. They did multiple tests. They couldn't find anything, and it got worse and worse, and I had to go down to Sydney to like see a specialist down there. and the specialist down there did a gastric emptying study, and that showed that I had quite delayed gastric emptying. In his words, the most delayed he has ever seen. My gastroparesis was really bad, both in its gastric emptying study results and its symptoms, because I know gastric emptying results and symptoms can be like very different. Some people can have a really bad gastric emptying result and have very little symptoms and very little impact on their life, and some people can have really good gastric emptying results but it has a massive impact on their life. So gastric emptying study doesn't really show how severe it is symptom wise. For me, it was both the gastric emptying study and the symptoms that were severe. We couldn't figure out what had caused it, and so we were looking into what had caused it. I went and saw a neurologist to check and see if I had any like nerve damage. It got to a point where my gastro that had diagnosed me had said, look, I'm sorry, I don't really know what else I can do. You're gonna have to see someone else, which I respect, because if someone, you know, is willing to say they don't know, then that is something that I respect, because doctors are human, they don't know everything. That's just how it is. So I ended up getting referred to the doctor that I see now, who is like really good. He's very knowledgeable on gut motility disorders. He also knows a little bit about other disorders that come along with these gut motility disorders. So I went into the appointment, my first appointment with him. So he basically had asked me a lot of questions. He looked over my test results and everything, all my history. He asked, and have you like always been sick? Like, have you been in and out of hospital your whole life? And I said, no, I haven't been in and out of hospital my whole life. And then I was like, oh, but I have. The only time I went to hospital as a kid was when I'd have dislocations. And he kind of just stopped what he was doing. And he looked at me. He said, did you dislocate your knee a lot as a kid? And I was like, yeah, I did. So did you have sore joints as a kid? I was like, yeah. But of course, like, I thought my sore joints were because I was very active as a kid. I was surfing, bike riding, doing like a whole heap of stuff. So I was like, yeah, but I was a very active kid. And he said, oh, okay. And are you flexible? Like, do you dance? Are you flexible? Like, have you done any flexible stuff? Like, are you flexible? And I said, yeah, I'm quite flexible. My friends actually, you know, are interested to see how flexible I am most of the time, because they think it's cool how flexible I am. The puzzle pieces started being put into place, and they're like, all right, so I just want to do a few things with you. So he got out the Baton score and he said, you know, can you do this? Can you do this? I've forgotten what the rest are. Like, can you stand up and touch your toes like flat, or touch the ground flat without like bending your knees? And I could do that. Can you do, like, he just asked me to do a whole bunch of stuff. I kind of forgot what's in the Baton score. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Can you, like, I think it's your pinky. Can you like do your pinky like that? Which, it doesn't go back as far as other people with Ehlers Danlos. How stretchy is your skin? So not like as stretchy as other people with Ehlers Danlos, but stretchy. He was like, okay, well, I think you might have a thing called Ehlers Danlos syndrome. We're gonna refer you on to a rheumatologist to basically get that checked, because if you have Ehlers Danlos syndrome, then that could basically be the reason you have gastroparesis. They didn't say the cause, but they said basically like it could be linked, and that could have kind of, I guess what they're saying is it could have been the cause, basically. So I think it was about like 5 months later or less, like, I don't know, I think it was 4 months or something, or 3. And I went back down to Sydney to see the gastro again, but I also saw a heart specialist, and I also saw the rheumatologist. I actually did a whole video vlogging in Sydney. If you want to see that whole video, you can like check it out up there. But I actually do a lot more vlogs these days than sit down and talk videos, so if you want a taste of my vlogs, that's the video to watch. So I saw the rheumatologist. He checked basically what the gastro had did, and also asked a lot of questions about my history, and he's like, yep, you got Ehlers Danlos syndrome. I was like, oh, okay. That's interesting. That was 2021. I was 21 years of age and I was diagnosed with hypermobile type Ehlers Danlos syndrome. We never looked into why I got dislocations. If it wasn't for getting gastroparesis, I wouldn't have known I had Ehlers Danlos syndrome. But like, we didn't even know, like, we'd never heard of Ehlers Danlos syndrome before. We'd never even heard of gastroparesis before, and until I was diagnosed. And we were just like kind of looking over all the things to do with Ehlers Danlos, and so much made sense. It was like, oh my goodness, that makes sense why this happened when I was a kid, or why that happened when I was a kid, or why I was like this or like that. And it just all made sense. I was like, oh my goodness, it makes sense. It makes total sense. Fast forward a year and here I am with Ehlers Danlos, diagnosed for a little less than a year now, and I actually haven't dislocated my knee in 2 years, which is a massive achievement for me because I used to get so scared that I was going to dislocate my knee all the time because it happened literally all the time. So I'd pray, I'd be like, Lord, please help me not to dislocate my knee today and tomorrow and like for the next like 10 days, and then after those 10 days were up, I prayed again, and then it was just like this constant thing. I was so paranoid that I was going to do it in because I'd do it literally all the time, and it was just not a fun thing. Anyway, that was my Ehlers Danlos syndrome story. That was my video for today. If you liked it, be sure to give a big thumbs up, and if you liked it even more, sorry, I got an itchy nose. And if you liked it even more, don't forget to click that subscribe button. You can also follow me over my Instagram at Amity Gilmour. Love you guys, God bless.